So last week I didn't really review the chapter because, well, I was busy and stuff, but we're back again, and chapter 224 really had an impact on me personally. I don't know about you guys, but to me, this chapter really gave me some expectations on what this arc is going to provide, to say the least, because we got some really interesting information about what's going to happen with Gigantomachia, of course, through Shigaraki, but what I really found interesting in the early parts of the chapter was how it almost seemed as if Himiko Toga was the more reasonable out of her and Twice, which you could consider to be quite interesting given how, well, let's be honest, Toga's kind of fucked in the head, so to see her trying to be the more reasonable in the conversation, it really stood out to me. I mean, ultimately, they did go with Twice's plan, or what Twice wanted to do, but I wouldn't say it's because of Twice. So, I mean, obviously Toga trying to be the more reasonable one didn't really work because Shigaraki had other plans. And speaking of which, we also found out what the other Nomu was called, the one that Dabi used during the Pro Hero arc. It was called Hood, apparently. So obviously High End was sort of the type of Nomu it was, but Hood was the specific name for that Nomu, which I find to be interesting. So let's talk about how Gigantomachia is going to be utilized in this arc, because that is something that I found to be extremely interesting. For those who may remember, I mean, if you read the chapter, I hope you have if you're watching this video. Otherwise, you're gonna be pretty fucking spoiled. But Shigaraki intends on going to the Quirk Liberation Army's, well, their destination where they wanted to meet. And obviously Shigaraki knows that Gigantomachia is going to trail him wherever he goes, because he's so fixated on Shigaraki at the moment that if Shigaraki goes somewhere, whenever Gigantomachia wakes up, he's going to find Shigaraki wherever he is. And that's going to lead to his ultimate plan, which is to make Gigantomachia the primary and ultimate weapon in this war. Because I don't know who remembers this, but back before the Remedial Course, I believe this was, or right after Remedial Course arc, we had a glimpse of Gigantomachia for the first time. Well, not counting his initial introduction, but we saw how he tore down a mountain pretty much. He took a chunk out of a mountain. We didn't really see it happen, but we saw the aftermath of it, which was extremely destructive. And if he's going to unleash that kind of power in this town, well, let's just say that we're looking at some serious mayhem. And because of the fact that this town is mostly populated by the Quirk Liberation Army, I mean, Shigaraki doesn't really care about this, but he's not really gonna cause too much casualties of innocent people, because all of these people are willingly helping Destro. They want to, you know, assist them and fight the League of Villains, meaning that there's really no innocent people in this, at least not a lot of people. I believe they say 90% of the population was Quirk Liberation Army, so yeah, you're looking at a very large number of people that are actually not innocent versus maybe 10% that may be innocent. So there may be a few casualties, but there's definitely not going to be a lot of them, and we don't really know if the heroes are going to get involved in this. I'm pretty sure they will, if I'm being honest, especially given how we got to see that hero that we saw right at the beginning of this arc when Bakugo and Todoroki stop those thieves. We saw that Slidin Go hero, which turns out to be one of the people that are working with Destro. He seems to be part of the Quirk Liberation Army, one of the 110,000 soldiers, or however many there were. So I'm really curious to see what kind of stance he's gonna take. Like, is he on the hero's side or not? Like, is he going to help the heroes as well as the Quirk Liberation Army, or is him being a hero just a facade? I'm not really quite sure, because obviously the Quirk Liberation Army has their own agenda. They're not really heroes, let's be honest. Like, they're not really trying to do heroic stuff. They're just trying to get rid of the League of Villains because they are more popular than them at the moment. They want to be the most popular sort of villainous or antagonistic group, I guess you could say. So I really hope we find out more about Slidin Go's stance in this and exactly what's gonna happen, you know, if a hero becomes part of the Quirk Liberation Army. Like, is the hero job just the facade, and then being in the Quirk Liberation Army is more of their primary sort of thing, or maybe he's actually infiltrating the Quirk Liberation Army. Now, that would be really interesting to see, because I'm pretty sure that could happen. I mean, I don't see why not. Like, the Quirk Liberation Army is such a huge thing if there's so many people involved, like 110,000 people, that there's probably not that difficult to infiltrate as long as you can convince them enough that you actually believe in their cause, and to the point where you would actually live there and, you know, potentially kill people for them, which would definitely require a certain level of dedication if you're going undercover, because you don't want to kill people as a hero at least. So I'm really waiting to see where that leads. So the next thing that really happened in this arc, of course, was how they were kind of brought into town, and when they were brought into town, you know, everything has started collapsing pretty much. Yes, the Quirk Liberation Army has started like charging in on them, and you see Shigaraki is absolutely bodying some people, like he is killing people left and right. He doesn't care. Toga met an adversary. Now that is something that I want to talk about, because Toga, she's gonna fight Kizuki, which is the woman who is in charge of Shueisha in this series, the one who's publishing the Superpower Liberation War book. And it looks like her quirk is some kind of explosion. Now that is something that I'm really curious about, because if Bakugo is gonna be part of this arc, I wonder if Bakugo is gonna end up fighting him and we're gonna see some level of contrast between those quirks. You know, I don't think they're related or anything, but it would be really interesting to see how Bakugo fares against another quirk that is quite similar to his own, and we don't really know how skilled she is with that quirk. But for now, Toga is gonna be the one fighting her, and from what it looks like, Toga may be getting some backstory next chapter, and that is something that I'm really curious about, because backstory for Toga or any other League member for that matter is something that I've been waiting for a very long time. So I really hope that we do get some. I mean, obviously Toga's kind of trying to brush off what she's saying by saying yeah, no, but at the same time, you know, I think it's still gonna lead into something. Like, she's probably gonna try to get under Toga's skin somehow. Like, we don't know what she's capable of in terms of social behavior or anything like that. All we know is that her quirk is something to do with explosions, and I have a feeling she is going to be able to get something out of Toga. And speaking of Kizuki and Toga, what I found to be really interesting, of course, is that as we know, they have all of the information about Toga, and she said that Toga is a high schooler, which implies that because of the fact that Kizuki obviously has all of this information on Toga, we can probably assume that she is in fact a high schooler and not like 20 plus, that some people have been speculating that she may have just been acting like a high schooler. But I mean, it's not hard confirmed, it's just sort of soft confirmed at this point, because of the fact that obviously Toga is she's dressing as a high school girl, but she doesn't really, I mean, she doesn't act like one, let's be honest. Like, I mean, in terms of her whole love thing, she kind of does, but at the same time, you know, your average teenager doesn't like just go out to kill people like she does. So I'm really curious to see, you know, what kind of backstory she has, and I really hope that kind of explains why she is the way she is. And that is something that I've been wanting for years. Ever since I was introduced into this character, I've been wanting more information about her, and we just might be getting that now. And yeah, seeing Kizuki as trying to get that out of her, like trying to see, you know, what made you who you are today, that is something that I'm really hyped about for next week. Anyway, I'm gonna end the review here, so I hope you like this chapter. I know I did. Like, I really enjoyed this chapter. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Toga, so that's why I probably feel a lot more to this chapter than maybe some other people do, especially towards the end of the chapter where Toga's upcoming fight is about to start. So yeah, I can't wait for next week. I'd love to know what you think down below in the comments, so be sure to drop one down there. And as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and I'll see you next time.